class. So this live class will basically cover quadratic equation and what? Vectors. So before I start, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Fast Revision Academy. And also don't forget to comment. This is a live, so comment if you have a question so that I may repeat. So to begin, we'll start by solving first the quadratic equation. So our quadratic equation which we are solving is, we have 3 so we have 3x squared minus 5x minus 7. So this is our first equation which we are going to solve. So how do we solve the quadratic equation? Remember, the formula for quadratic equation is negative bx is equals to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So this is basically the formula which we use whenever we are calculating what? The quadratic equation. So now how can we apply this formula to our question? Step 1 is for you to identify the what? The letters. So what are the letters supposed to identify? We have A, B, and what? C. These are the 3 letters which you need to identify for you to solve what? This question effectively. So now how can you solve it, or how can you identify? So the trick for you to identify is that the letter or the number which has a square, always remember the number with the square is what? A. So whenever you see a number as a square, meaning it has what? It is representing the what? A. So we write 3 as our A. Then next we are going to move to B. So B is just a number which has x with no what? With no square. So which is this one. So this one is our B. So you say B is equals to 5. Then moving on to C. So C is a number which has no letter. So like in our case it's what? Negative 7. And sorry, so when we identify B, don't forget the negative sign. Yeah. So these are the values. We have identified the values. Now it's just a matter of replacing them in the equation. So now you say our x is equals to negative. So our x is equals to negative. What is our b? Our b is negative 5. So you say negative 5. What is plus or minus the square root? What is b again? Negative 5 squared minus, what is our a? Our a we have is 3. What is our c? Our c is negative 7. Then you say divided by 2. So what is our a? Our a is what? 3. So once you have replaced like that, meaning you have done what? You have basically replaced everything here. So now here it's just a matter of doing what? multiplying. So what is negative times negative 5? We have what? 5 plus or minus. What is negative 5 squared? We have 25. Negative 4 times 3. We have what? Negative 12. Negative 12 times negative 7. What do we have? So let's negative 7 times negative 12. What do we have? Negative 7, 12 times negative 7, we have what? 84. So here you say plus 84. Then what is 2 times 3? So 2 times 3 is basically what? 6. Then now here you say 5 plus or minus 25 plus 84. So 25 plus 84, we have 109 divided by 6. So now here you can find the square root of what? Of 109. So what's the square root of 109? So the square root of 109 is 10.440. So you can end here, because in paper 2 we are advised to leave our answer to what? To 3 significant figures. So once you reach here, you can end. Then you say divided by 6. Then now here you can split the signs. So since we are positive and negative, our answers should be positive and negative. So you say now x is equals to 5 plus 10.440 divided by 6, or 5 minus 10.440 divided by what? By 6. So now if you add 5 plus that, 5 plus 10, you get what? 15.440 divided by 6, or if you subtract 5 minus 10, you get what? Negative 5.440 divided by what? By 6. So our x therefore is, when you divide 15 divided by 6, you find your answer to be 2. So if you divide 15.440 divided by 6, you find your answer to be 2.573333. So you can end here, because in paper 2 they are encouraging us to leave the answer to what? To 3 significant figures. Then you say, oh, now what is negative 5 divided by negative 5.440 divided by 6? So we have what? Negative 0.906 as our second answer. So this is how simple what? The quadratic equation in paper 2 is. So now let's try and solve our main question, which is vectors. So now how can you solve vectors? So that is our second question which we are going to answer. So I hope you have gotten something here. So our next question is on vectors. Yeah. So for you that are watching the video for the first time, vectors is a quite simple topic, and it always comes in your what? In your paper 2, in section A. So what is the meaning of vectors before we start solving? So whenever they ask you vectors in math, they're asking you an alternative way or a different way in which they can use to reach the vector. So in our case, we have in the parallelogram, we have OABC, which is OABC. OA is 4A, so vector OA. So they are meaning that, in short, they are saying that the distance from O to A is what? 4A. Then the vector OC, or the distance from O to C, is what? 6C. Then we have vector AP. So the distance from A to P is just what? The 2/3 of AC. And M is the midpoint of BC. So what you need to understand when you have a parallelogram, so a parallelogram, this side and this side are equal. So meaning if we have 4A here, even here we have 4A. 6C here, meaning even here we have 6C. So this is how you should understand a vector. It's just what? Another way you can use to get to the point you are calculating. So our first question is saying, find in terms of Q and or C vector what? AC. So they want us to calculate vector AC. So in short, they are asking us, which way can we use apart from this direct one from A to C? Which other route can we use? So the other route we can use is either this one or this one. So but since this one has what? The letters, we are going to use this route. So you say, for us to get to vector C from A, we are going to move what? From A to O, then from O to C. So if we move like this, meaning we are going to reach our point, which is A, C. Now, here you need to understand that AO, this vector is pointing where? Upwards. So meaning this, when we take AO, so meaning we are going the opposite direction of vector OA. So meaning this should be negative. So you say negative 4A. Because we are going in the opposite direction. You see, this is vector OA, which is 4A. But in our case, we are going backwards. That's why it is negative. Then you say plus OC. So OC, it is just 6C. It is direct. So you say 6C. Then vectors always start with the positive number. So always start with the positive number. So here you say now vector 6C plus what? 4A. Meaning you have answered your first question. This is how vectors are simple. Vectors are very, very, very simple. Next question is calculate vector OP. So now they want us to calculate vector OP. So in other case, they're asking us, how can you move from O to P apart from using this one? So when they say OP, they are saying don't use the direct route, just use the other one. So for us to move from O to P, we are going to use what? Vector OA, then we move to now AP. That is how you move. So you say vector OA plus vector AP. So why am I picking this? So remember, I'm not picking this at random. I'm following where I have values. Because if I use this other one, I don't have the value for what? Vector PC. But the one I used, I have the value for vector OA. I also have the value for vector AP, which is this one in our question. So now we say, what is our vector OA? So vector OA is basically 4A plus, what is our vector AP? So AP they gave us in our question, which is 2/3 AC. So vector AP is 2/3 AC. But remember, we have calculated AC in our first question. So meaning, this question what will contain what? Our first answer, which is 6E plus 4A. Yeah. So this is how important what vectors are. So the moment question 1 becomes wrong, meaning your question 2 also become wrong, because you won't be able to use this part which I've showed you. So this part is coming from vector AC. Those that don't understand, we replaced where there was AC in the question with this one. So now here, what you need is just the basic addition. So now you first say, let me multiply everything here. So now you say 4A plus 2 times 6, we have 12C divided by 3, plus 2 times 4, we have what? 8A divided by what? By 3. Yeah. So in the sense that 3 can go into 12, so we have 4A plus 4 vector C plus what? 8A divided by 3. So now here you can add. So add the like terms. So what are the like terms? So the like terms we have with 4 vector A plus 8A over 3. Then we have plus 4 at C. So this is how you can multiply vectors in a simple way. So yeah, we say this for 6. You can basically add. So here you can introduce 1 so that you balance up the fraction. What is the common factor? So the common factor here is 3. Then 1 into 3, 3. 3 times 4, we have 12A plus 3 into 3, 1. 1 times 8, we have 80A plus 4C. Then here you say now 12 plus 8, we have 20A divided by 3 plus 4 vector C. Meaning this is our answer for vector OP. So this is how vectors are simple. So vectors is just the addition, and you identify which root is simple for you to use. Now the final question, which is asking us to calculate what? Vector OM. So we are going to end the video by calculating now vector OM. So how can you calculate vector OM? Again, remember, vectors is all about the other way you can use to get to the point. So which other way we can use for us to move from O to M? So remember, I told you This part and this side are equal because this is a parallelogram, meaning it has two equal sides, because we say parallel lines, they will never meet, they will maintain the same distance. So meaning if M is the midpoint, so meaning here we are supposed to have 2 and here 2, so that it is balanced. So now you say, for us to get to M, we are going to move OC plus vector CM. So we're going to move from here to here, then here to here. Now what are the values? So vector OC as what? 6C. Then CM, we say that it is the half of what? Vector 4A. So meaning here we say 4A. So now this is where you end. There is nothing you can do. So this is where our vector equation ends. I hope you have learned something from this live class. So don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss our next live video.